myself.
I feel good about myself.
I feel good about the people around me.
I feel good about the people around
me. I feel goodness all around me.
I feel goodness all around me.
And it will follow me for the rest of my life.
And it will follow me for the rest of my life.
Because I walk with good.
Because I walk with good.
And I talk with good.
And I talk with good.
And I am good.
And I am good.
And that feels real good.
And that feels real good.
Good, better, best.
Good, better, best.
Never let it rest.
Never let it rest.
Until your good is your better.
And your good is your better.
And your better is your best.
And your better is your best.
Black people.
Black people.
You were once great.
You were once great.
You shall be great again.
You shall be great again.
Lose not faith.
Lose not faith.
Lose not courage.
Lose not courage.
Go forward.
Go forward.
Uplift the race.
Uplift the race.
Harambe.
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 Spirituality supports reality. 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 Spirituality supports reality.
This is an African set, more respect. I saw the light and now I got to reflect straight back. Here's a little message while you live, and what I got to give is somewhat positive. Spade, the brother's gonna serve rhythmatically. Pass up on to you what was taught to me. That was Afrocentricity about being spiritual. So here we go to proceed quite lyrical. Praise the one for which our pledge must stand. Peace to the creator. Word to the motherland, I got to give it up, cause I'm down with Casa. Jumped in the circle, I was told we have to stand together as one in unity, amongst ourselves, amongst our community. Strong, repelling the interference of genocide. Luther King died to keep the dream alive. Mandela, the fella served 25, still revived, speaking, teaching others to survive. And look towards the Nubian place. Your mind is a waste if you don't know your race or heritage. History of the Afro-American, who's truly African, there's no comparison. We're all the same underneath the skin, whether dark or light. You might be my kid, so I relate to my brothers and my sisters. See, to the east, to the east, to the east of me. We traveled over here by slave ship. I dropped the bomb on the Uncle Tom, who ain't hit. Straight to the situation of the Asiatic nation. I slap him in the face with righteous information, stating this, educating only facts and reality. That's well supplemented by spirituality.
All right, family. Thank you for coming and joining us. Those who are in the chat, please let us know who out there so that we can keep up with you and read your comments. This is Divine Conversation, so you could go straight to the Black Line so that you can join the discussion. The Black Line number is 614-556-4535. I will post it up for you. Shouts out to Mama Margarita. Shouts out to Mama Margarita. She joins us every day. She's one of those daily toasters. I'm about to get you a shirt, Mama Margarita. You got a shirt coming. On Kwame. Kwame gonna pay for the shirt. He don't know it yet. But he gonna be paying for the shirt. But today we got Divine Conversation. And it's their story is our story, a continuation from our Pa'ank. Excellent talk given by Elder Darryl Green. So if y'all would, you know what I'm saying, open up and listen to Darryl Green, because he's going to give us some review and he's going to open it up so that we can have a discussion. Is that cool? I hope my fault, I started off wrong. Do I have permission from the elders to begin?
You don't.
I'm sorry, y'all know. I mean, I get into my mode. I'm sorry, but so let me pass it off first to Elder Tony, and then Elder Tony could pass it off to Elder Darryl Green. I'm gonna post up the line.
Well, you recognized Mama Margarita, which was excellent, and that, in a sense, was permission to speak. Because if she didn't want you to say anything, she would have cut in and said, "You don't have to speak." So I really good to recognize Mama Margarita on the line, which gives us the balance and the wisdom that we need. And I think at this particular point, we want to continue on with the leftover from the Quran. Mama Margarita, do we have your permission to continue? Oops. Well, okay. Well, without further delay here, I think we need to find whether Elder Darryl can give us an overview of what the Quran was about. Their story is our story. Elder Darryl, are you there?
Yes, bro. I'm here.
Okay, you want to give us? I don't know if Mama Margarita was on the Black Line or on the GNJMedia.
Okay. Well, I'll just begin. Okay. My presentation again was called "Their Story is Our Story," and I was addressing the fact that when I was talking to a teacher a few weeks back, that she was telling me that she was concerned about teaching our children their history, because what she had noticed was that our children looked at our history as a series of random events or incidences and just being a part of the greater American story, and not a continuing story of our struggle for liberty, equality, and justice. And before I get into it, I want to give a quote by Martin Delany. He says, "We must make an issue, create an event, and establish a national position for ourselves, and never may expect to be respected as men and women until we have undertaken some fearless, bold, adventurous deeds of daring, contending against every odds, regardless of every consequence." That was Martin Delany. In my presentation, I covered a lot of things, and I'm going to go over some bullet points. And then after I go over the bullet points, then I would like for everybody listening to feel free to make comments, or if you have questions, ask those, because that's what makes a good divine conversation. Okay. So I began the presentation by talking about the importance of knowing who you are, by giving a quote by a Timbuktu scholar of the 14th century. Then I went into the importance of telling our own story, because like I was saying earlier about how our children see our history as a series of random events and incidences, is because the reason for that is because other people are telling our story. And when they do that, then what usually happens is they end up incorporating the whole thing, our story, and making it more about them. Or for instance, in the story of the Underground Railroad, yes, whites participated, but the whole thing was initiated by our people. If we had not been running away and killing the animals and burning down the plantations and so forth, then nothing would have happened, just like today. If we had not been the ones to go into an uproar over George Floyd's passing or murder, really, then nothing would have happened, or the same thing would have happened. But what I'm seeing happening right now, and I hope everybody else is seeing, is that other people are trying to take over our protests. And again, just like the abolitionists during the Civil War or before the Civil War, they take over our initiatives and then make it more about themselves. The next bullet point, I talked about the two brothers from in Michigan, in Detroit specifically, William Lambert and George the Baptiste. I thought we were going to be on the other venue because I have a picture of William Lambert, but maybe I can show that to you another time. But the importance of knowing these two men was the fact that it pointed out that there were other branches of the Underground Railroad, other branches that we weren't familiar with. And some of these branches were led by our people. And William Lambert and George the Baptiste were a couple of those men and women that led us. The next thing I talked about was the African American mysteries and or the Order of the Men of Oppression. That was a Masonic order that was started by William Lambert and George Baptiste. And again, we found out that by studying these two men, that we did not depend on white abolitionists, that they had created an armed and organized unit and wasn't afraid to use it. And we also, in the end, found out or recognized that you don't have to end up being broke just because you're fighting for your liberation. Because these two men ended up becoming the two wealthiest African Americans in the state of Michigan. And another thing that I addressed was I did a little side note and started talking about the Masonic order here in Columbus. And I noted that St. Mark's Lodge, which is located on the corner of Miami and Long Street, is the fourth oldest Masonic lodge in the state of Ohio. And that also two of its members, Dr. William, now I forgot his name. Maybe it'll come back to me. It was two brothers, one Dr. R.M. Tribbett and a Dr. Wait a minute, I have it in my notes. And a Dr. William Method. Dr. Method, he actually led the whole initiative in creating or establishing the first Black African American hospital in Columbus, Ohio. Because at that time, the Black surgeons were not allowed to practice or do any surgery in the white hospitals. So these two Masonic brothers and doctors established what they called the Alpha Hospital. And that was located in the building that sits right there on the corner of 17th and Long. And maybe I was thinking that it would be nice if our community could at least establish or put a plaque up marking that building, because I think it's important that we begin to identify particular landmarks on the east side. Because unlike how we were, other groups were allowed to name their communities like Italian Village or the Short North or whatever, we were not allowed to name our part of town. So I think that it's crucial that we begin to identify those landmarks so that people in the future will know that we were there. Otherwise, if we don't do it, it'll get lost. The next bullet point that I talked about was the great appreciation for education that our people had. When I went over the biographies of William Lambert and George the Baptiste, we found out that both of them, the first things that they did when they went to Detroit was to open up private schools. William Lambert opened up the school in the church. George the Baptiste opened up a school in his home, opened up his home for people to come to and receive an education. And we also, looking at the biographies, saw that George the Baptiste, even though he was born a free man, it was still illegal for free Black people to learn how to read and write in the state of Virginia where he was living. So he had to teach himself how to read in secret. And then Dr. Claude Anderson talked about how our people sold, made pies and chopped wood so that they could raise money to build their own schools, not waiting on the Freedmen's Bureau. The Freedmen's Bureau was fine, that was extra, but they weren't going to wait on them. I think we should really take note of that. Then I talked about the need to study the Black Masonic participation in the protest movement and abolitionist movement. After looking at William Lambert and George the Baptiste, we find that there are lots of men and women who are involved in that. And not just in Michigan, but all over. And again, if we don't do that, then that history is going to be lost. Our story will get lost. And we have to remember that their story is our story. And finally, I just raised the question that if it's true, as we in the Afrocentric community say that we still have our culture, we haven't lost it, and even Malcolm mentions that in one of his stories. I've raised the question of what wisdom teachings then have survived over time and that we still adhere to. And when we start to discuss that, then I can go over the 7 that I suggested, but I think it would be nice if everybody else, I know I didn't remember all of them. There's other teachings or values that our people have that I didn't mention. And they may come to mind to you. So feel free to add those. Okay, so at this time I'm going to open the thing up for questions and comments. And again, feel free to be yourself. I say.
Shouts out to Sister Donetta Muhammad. Just letting you know she's in the house. If anybody wants to join the discussion, feel free to hit us up at 614-556-4535. Also, make sure you join us. Check out GNJ.media, fam. We got our own thing. Y'all, we streaming through there and everything. So come on out and join the conversation. So I'm gonna get back off the mic and we can start the conversation.
Okay, if there's no questions yet, then I'm going to go over some of those value systems. I'll just go over the question again. What wisdom teachings of our ancestors have we made sacred? Some say that we don't have any culture anymore and that we lost it. But again, I beg to differ. Think about the little sayings and bits of advice that our parents, grandparents, and sometimes strangers shared with us. There was wisdom there, but we just didn't process it as a sacred value system. We wasn't thinking like that at the time. But when you think back, you can see the universal principles in them, like treat everybody with respect. You can be anything that you want to be as long as you do the work, because the power is inside you. Male and female must always work together. Whenever possible, share. Nothing wrong with sharing. Stand up for what is right. There's always more than one way, so be open to new ideas. And finally, respect your elders, because one day you may be one of them. So again, this is who we are. We haven't lost anything. Malcolm, I mentioned the story that Malcolm had told a story about it, so I guess I'll take some time and share that. Malcolm used to tell a story about a cat that lived in an oven, and that cat had some kittens. And Malcolm goes on to say that even though those cats or those kittens may have walked around like buttered biscuits or jelly rolls, they weren't. They were still kittens. So the point of the story was, it doesn't matter where you're born. The location doesn't have anything to do with it or not. Whether you're born in Africa or not has nothing to do with it. Because your spiritual essence, that's what we're talking about. Your spiritual essence of who you are, that stays with you. That's inside of you. So even though we were transported here, so was our culture and our spirituality. We brought that here with us. Now, anybody have any comments?
Any questions? Don't be shy. Y'all, we got people on the line. What's going on? Elder Darryl, can you go in a little bit more about parts of the culture that we have retained, since a lot of people do believe that we lost our culture?
Gosh, I thought that's what I just did.
I mean, let's do a little bit more. I mean, let's go deeper. Or is anybody else out there? Anybody else got any examples of the culture that we have retained? Because I mean, there's a lot of people that's in doubt about us having a culture, and I'm not in agreement with that. I'm like with you. I'm like you.
Well, I'll give you another example of us not losing our culture. The whole creation of Kwanzaa, that whole effort was to make sure that we did not lose our culture and that we had not lost our culture. So, I mean, that's one of the biggest things that we could have done regarding this subject, because like we were saying earlier, people have always said that we lost our culture, we don't have it. But after Kwanzaa was created, now as time has gone by, now we see how it's been accepted, not just here locally, not just domestically in the United States, but all over the world. And if there was no spirituality or any culture involved in this mechanism that Marlana Kranger created, then I'm sure that other black people or the Africans would have said something, and they definitely would not have been celebrating it with them.
Somebody up. Any other questions?
Yeah, I got a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm not going to say that we lost our culture either, but what we think that where we are is that, you know, and they do have a lot of us that are practicing our culture. I'm not saying that we are not, but for a lot of us, that practice have gotten numb, you know, because, you know, we don't respect, some of us don't respect our elders. Some of us don't try to do the best that we can. Some of us are still killing each other, you know, and that may be, you know, a constant thing that's going to happen. But, you know, I believe that when we decide to take over and do what our ancestors and the culture expects of us, then the rest of the world look at us. You see what I'm saying? White people won't be killing us, you know, when we decide that we're going to work together and stop this. You know what I'm saying? You know, so that's my view. You know, but have we lost the culture? No, we haven't, you know, but we don't have enough people that are, you know, that want to participate, you know, in practicing the culture, because all of those principles of Kwanzaa are practice principles, you know. We could talk about Umoja, Ujamaa, all of those things, but if we don't practice them, not only with our family, but outside of our family also, then those things become numb to us.
Now, let me ask this question, because I hear people say not enough, even with that. How much is enough of us to practice the culture for it to really be effective? Is there a critical mass that we can reach? Or is it just some, is it just something we're throwing out? Because I'm thinking that there's enough of us to practice the culture that can actually make a change.
You asking me that question?
I'm throwing it out there.
Okay.
Me and you start cussing on here. We just ain't the place for that.
Yeah.
You know
No, we ain't gonna cuss.
I know.
But okay, let's take for example in Columbus, Ohio. You know what I'm saying? You know, practicing the culture may be fine, you know, with me and you, but if we ain't teaching the children, you know what I'm saying, then that's our next generation. That's the other generation that's gonna be following us. You know, they will probably do the same thing that they see, they'll probably do the same thing that we are doing because we are not teaching them. That's good. You see, because if we were teaching them properly, you know, they already, you know, coming to festivals that are given by African people. They will be, you know.
Okay, thanks.
What's all that in the background?
Yeah, that's somebody need to mute their. I'm gonna go in and find it, bro.
You got
See,
dogs and stuff all.
see, you was about to cuss.
I just came in and I'm trying to mute my phone.
There you go. She muted. Go ahead.
Okay.
Y'all heard him. Y'all heard him. He said we ain't gonna cuss, but he was about to cuss. Go
I
ahead.
said they got dogs. I said they got dogs and stuff.
Listen, I heard you, bro. I heard you. It was about to come out, but go ahead.
Yeah. And that's part of the culture. That's part of my culture. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have any kind of
Exactly
real meaning, but that's how, that's part of an expression that I use. You know what I'm saying? It's not directed in a way to anybody, but we have to be a little bit more vigilant in our doing, than what we see ourselves doing, because if I'm living up north, and it's just that we have a lot of, I think that it's also that we have a lot to do, you know what I'm saying? Even a few of us, you know what I'm saying? We have a lot to do,
I said to hear permission to speak.
Yabo.
I agree with Atep. Over and over, we're not doing enough. There's not enough of us doing this. We're not teaching the children, but we are. And remember, even our children, sometimes they make up their own mind. Sometimes it's at a later date when they mature more that they say, "Oh, okay, this is what my mom, my aunt, or when they were taking me to
Everything's okay?
Africa." Huh?
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
Okay. I'm still here talking.
Yeah, well, hold on, us two. Hey, if you are not talking, you may need to mute your mic, or I'm gonna come through and I'm gonna go and eliminate you. I love my family, but yo, this too much. So I'm sorry, Elder Institute. Go ahead and finish what you were saying, because that's ridiculous.
Well, I was just saying that I think we probably don't consistently give ourselves credit for the effort that we are putting out. And especially those of you that are parents, that just because you teach your child the right thing doesn't always 100% guarantee that they will, at any stage of their life, do that. So I think we are practicing our culture. We are teaching the next generation. I think the next generation, they're going to continue, because this is not a one and done. This is our story. It's an event that's going to go on forever. I yield.
Can I be heard?
Yabo. Go ahead, bro.
So I'm on board with what Mama Isatu is saying. I'll begin with Elder Darryl gave us a brief history on how we actively collaborated and oftentimes pioneered on behalf of ourselves. Then, I'm not sure, are you familiar, Elder Darryl, that it was Queen Moore who gave Malcolm that notion that just because, a cat's born in an oven doesn't make it a biscuit. And then oftentimes my younger sister and I will come across these moments in our lives where, particularly these past 12 months, we've lost a lot of near and dear people to us. And we'll reflect back on when we were children growing up in Marion, Ohio. And ironically, even talking with Brother Hatim and some of our GNJMedia tribe, I mentioned the idea. Well, I don't know if it was to them or not, but it's one of those things where I'm talking about the sayings of my grandmother and the sayings of my Uncle Perry. And because, particularly given the circumstances in which they were said, I mean, it was funny as heck. And yeah, I'm sure now it was with my younger sister. And, you know, a lot of the stuff, as Mama Isatu was pointing out, that we were hearing at, you know, I got 4 years on her, I think. Yeah, 4 years on her. So, you know, we were hearing at the ages from, she would have been 4, I would have been about 7, you know, up until grandma at least had to leave us as far as this physical plane is concerned. But we often revisit those things she would tell us, what things we saw her do, and often what she had us do. And I know, you know, especially when I got to college, I wanted to see if what grandma was saying held up. And of course, you know, these many years later, I can reflect back and say, okay, I could tweak what grandma said from this perspective, but generally speaking, that truth holds up. And so I can't reemphasize enough how, yes, we are passing down valuable aspects of who we are. We could probably stress a little more the valuable things that we do, and albeit critical of ourselves, but always looking to build each other up rather than tearing each other down. I yield.
Mm-hmm. I say.
Permission to speak.
Here you go.
Permission to speak. This is Mama Margarita. Could you please help me, Elder Green, the difference between culture and traditions from our African continent? Culture and traditions that we practice from our continent, Africa.
I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question. You said the difference between culture and
tradition.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. And what else?
Okay, I said traditions. You know, what do you?
Tradition.
Tradition.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in my mind, the tradition is made up of rituals, and not just rituals, but just the values that we honor and try to uphold and continue. Culture itself is the way that a group of people believe and how they see themselves and how they relate to the Creator and nature. So that's what culture is.
So can you give me some example of African culture, and please give me some examples of African traditions, please. That we practice culture, here in Ohio.
Well, I read all 7. We've always been taught that we're supposed to respect one another. That's not an American value. That's a time-honored tradition that goes all the way back to Africa. It's built on respect. That's why we even before you even ask a question, you ask for permission to speak. It's not because of me, but it's because of the tradition that we showing respect to the group. I hope I answered your question.
Well, that was a hard question, boy. My mama really be coming with some hard questions, man. So,
but what I would like to really just piggyback on what Mama Isa too and Brother Kwame said, that for me, our children need to see us to continue to fight. And when I say fight, I don't mean like when you look at these videos and then people, the police have stopped you and now you hollering and screaming and all that. Whether you're right or wrong, there's ways to do that. That's another value that there's ways to do things. Okay, but our children still need to see us fight. And when I say fight, I'm talking about politically. We have to continue to organize. Right now, we're like on the infant stages of really understanding how this government works, because we're still being led by other people, and we're not organized enough ourselves. To not organized enough to pick people to represent us at all. And also, we need to continue to fight economically. We're in a battle for economic space, so that we can, encourage entrepreneurship and do business, and not just continue to spend our money with other people. And then finally, just need to stop fighting among ourselves. I'm gonna quote Malcolm again because I can't think of anybody else or another way. Leave your differences at the door. That's all. It doesn't matter what name you call the creator, or if you believe in the creator. Now that does not matter. What we have to do is look for the that we mutually agree on, and identify that and those things, and then work towards successfully making those things happen.
Mute the phone. Mute your phones. If you're not speaking, mute the phone. Are there any other questions for Elder Darryl?
I would like to say, this is Elder Eunice.
What's up, Elder Eunice? How you doing today?
All right, and you, brother?
I'm doing good. It's good to hear your voice. Go ahead.
All right, I hope I'm not the one that's making all the noise that you keep on hearing. I know, like, for the last couple of weeks, I have been watching some things on Zoom what some people are doing, young people in their 40s and 50s are doing throughout the country. And they've had, this one that I looked at was the Sankofa Club with Freddie Taylor, and he talked about education. And they had speakers and from all over the United States, Black. And one thing that they said is that, and someone said it here, we have to control our narrative. Can't no one else do it, and we have to be observant to see that when people come in, and white people come in, or anybody comes in, and they try to change it, we've been doing this before they even knew that we were doing it. And then another one was on African ancestry. They had a summit, and they had, speakers. So, we are doing it. We are practicing our culture. We're keeping a lot of traditions that we just need to be pointed out, what we're doing. And like Kwame said, his grandmother told him when he was a kid, he went to college and he tried those things and they still work. We have to talk about being Black, like they say, like Black people are not a monolith. Well, white people aren't either, but you respect all white people if they're French, if they're German, if they're Italian, So we got to say, well, I respect Black people. I respect the Nigerians. I respect the
the Jamaicans. I respect, Black people wherever we are. So we are all one people. So whatever happens to one of us, it's gonna happen to all. So we do practice our culture, and and the young people are, learning that, like you, the more European you become, the more European you don't become. And like one of the things that they said is that, 5 minutes a day keeps the miseducation away. So if we keep on, talking to our kids, showing them who they are, so that when they go out there, that they can fight the battle. So, and we need to be more political astute. White people are fighting right now, Republicans and Democrats, and neither one of them have given us anything. So, but hell, and so, just know that, whatever happens, it don't change the way we were poor the day before, we're gonna be poor the next day. So yeah, we're practicing it, and we have never stopped trying to get together. That's my say. I've finished. I do.
I say.
Elder Isaac, you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to, again, stress the importance of us telling our story. Oftentimes we repeat the same thing that others are saying. We don't have a culture. We're not doing enough, and we really need to stop that verbalization and consistently point out what we are doing.
Right.
Yes, we can do more, but we have to, stop the verge of where, Black people don't get together. Black people, we don't practice our culture. We don't. That's not true. That's not our story. We do all those things, and we have to toot our own horn.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to say this. One way that we can toot our own horn here locally in Columbus, Ohio, and we probably should do this everywhere, all over the country, is that, again, I was talking about identifying landmarks and shrines in our community. It's so important for us to do that so that the future generations will, again, know that we were here and also know that we were in a constant struggle. So, identifying those shrines or those landmarks, it's crucial. I remember I already talked about the Masonic Temple along in Miami and the Alpha House along in 17th. But also I remember Dr. Kelsey telling us about during the Civil War, there's a particular area in Franklin Park where all of the African American soldiers, they mustered them, all of them there, before they sent them out to war, to fight in the Civil War. That should be sacred space right there. And so it's been difficult for me to find that space, but that's something that the community should join in on, and maybe somebody else can find it. And also identify other locations, in the city. But that's one way that's one way to continue to tell our story, to solidify it. Yay, bro.
Commissioner Speaker.
Oh, Elder Tony.
Yes. I visit that space all the time. And that's where normally on Praronks, I go to different spots, and as we are doing that, and those different spots are our sacred space. So that's what I'll be doing. Imani will be doing Kwanzaa. We'll be broadcasting from. So I'll get that list together and make that a part of what we're doing. The doctor's office that you were talking about now has been turned into the Hertz rental company. So you're right. I do visit that one. It's right across the street now from what is going to become the Andy Walker Plaza. So you're right about that. I'd like to get permission from the folks that are on the line to pull together with others from the community that know how these spaces. One of them is Ohio and Newton. There's a lot of them there. So if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to get that together so we can start presenting it. That's what I'm going to be visiting during the Kwanzaa season. I yield. Thank you. Oh, the space is as you go into the Franklin Park, the main thing, you make a right, go straight up that road. You'll be stopped by some barriers, and right up the road, you'll see an outhouse. And I don't know why they did this, but right across from that outhouse is where that monument is. And it's a little plaque kind of thing. I'll get a picture and send it to brother Hatim and then so we can put it out. Thank you.
Permission to speak.
Yabo.
So, Baba Tony, you know that's going to be your assignment, right?
Yeah, that's good. I love it.
Right.
Bring it on.
We're going to make a documentary out of that.
Good. All right. Remember, I was down at Dayton I drove to Dayton and was at the gravesite from, who was it, y'all?
Martin Delaney.
Martin Delaney.
Thank you.
Right.
I was at his gravesite, and also went right across to Wilberforce. Was that there? I played the drums at that site on Wilberforce, and the police and everything was trying to figure out what was going on. But and then I went over to the college, and then to the African American Museum. So during that time of the year, and traveled down there. So it is important, and I'd like to, since we brought this up, to let you know that is important. During the Per Ankhs, I'm at the sites, sitting there doing that, and I haven't been able to get on because of my inconsistency with using the internet. But I'm going to learn how to do that, so you'll be able to see the site that I'm at. I was at the Mamie Moore Park. I mean, at the APDS, there was a couple of ones that I parked in front of APDS, and there, you're right. We have these sites all around, not only in this city, but we remember Elder Darryl, and we traveled during the Kwanzaa season to the different cities. We was in Cincinnati, Cleveland, Detroit, Chicago. We did that during each of the days of Kwanzaa. So it is important that we do recognize that would be a tradition that we put on our culture at that time. Now, whether we can do it again or not, yeah, we're gonna do it. So I'm getting all too happy, y'all, because I'm doing that. Oh, by the way, one of the in the Kwanzaa piece, you have tradition and reason. The tradition is established over a period of time by that generation that came up doing that. When the next generation comes along, sometimes they say, hey, here's the new reasoning we want to do the the tradition, but in this different way. And so that's when the elders and the nation builders or warriors get together and say, okay, we recognize this new tradition. One of those was when we used to do candles in the places all the time for doing Kwanzaa. When we got to a certain time, they wouldn't let us do candles with the tradition. The younger folks said, oh, we got that solved. We just, do the lanterns with lights in them that flicker. So tradition and reason is one of the bases in which we keep the concept of our culture moving on. So, and we're supposed to be questioned on it. In one of the traditions, the African traditions, the Yoruba tradition, there's a keeper at the crossroads, and that crossroads keeper, it questions why you're there, and give you some hard answers and some hard questions. You're supposed to be able to know why you're there, and that's exactly what we did today. The question came up about our culture, and we was on it. Like we was on it, so we know who we are. And I invite people questioning us about who we are, and where we're going, because we own it. And I got carried away. I'm sorry. I yield.
No, you didn't, Baba. I love it.
Permission to speak, Sister Isa to hear. Brother Tony, and some of you young folks and I really would love to see us put together a booklet, a manual that tells us where these places are. I would like to visit them, but I don't even know where stuff is around Columbus because, I lived in Akron, most of my life. But I would really, really love to see us have something like that, for lack of a better word, almost like a green book that says, hey, this is where our people made a mark.
That's
I think that could really be a big contribution that we could make to those of us that don't know. Thank you. I yield.
Permission to speak?
You both.
That's what Brother Kwame just made, if I understood it correctly, just said that we were going to do. And also, right. Akron is one of our major areas of tradition and culture and foundation. Akron is like, in my understanding of the way I've been doing things for a long time, without Akron and some of Youngstown and some of the other places around Ohio, that we wouldn't have the tradition and the culture the way we have it now. So your city is very much a part of it. But I understand that Brother Kwame has put on the table or made it or something that told me that I'm supposed to do this. So from what I understand, that's in the works and going to happen. Is that, I understand that correct, Brother Kwame?
Yes, sir. And we will make that happen.
Okay.
Who is we? Wait. You speaking for who is we? Who the we here?
Look, bruh, GNJMedia. We got a bunch
of
folks.
We don't do green books. We don't do green books.
Who are going to learn how to film and learn how to cut and all this stuff. So, yeah, bruh.
Permission to speak.
I'll go.
One of our major sacred spots is what was called the Dunbar Center, and that was on Nelson Road. It's not there anymore. There's an athletics center fit there. That's where Dr. Kelsey and others were in class with Dr. Ben and stuff. We're talking way back when now. And we adopted not only that spot, but the swinging bridge as over there on Nelson Road. So that is one of the major areas. Almost all of the artists and all of the folks who was doing anything from an African-centered perspective. And if I say Ohio and Newton, that would be a hall of respect. So thank you, Sister Institute, for putting that on the table. And Brother Plummer, so I don't got too excited. We're going to make that happen. We're going to make. But remember, Columbus was not only just Columbus. We were statewide and nationally. We went all over the country doing stuff. So what you said, sister, is and what Brother Kwame pointed us to, and in GNJMedia Nation, we're definitely going to make that happen for sure. I yield. Thank you,
Elder Eunice. I would also say, like what Institute is saying is, we could doing Kwanzaa. We could, highlight, go to those different places. And like Elder Tony said, we can't use a lantern, but we can have those lights that you can say, like this place was inhabited by Black people, and put a little history about that, and can do that all through the city, so that people will know that when we're doing Kwanzaa, we can say, if you're going down Long Street, if you're going down Broad Street, or if you're going on Livingston, that this is Livingston is the Underground Railroad. If you're on Broad Street, that's where the soldiers were at the park. So like we could have little lights that would highlight where our people were. The hospital on Long Street. So those are some things that we can do. I would work. I like that.
Permission to speak.
Because I'm not from Columbus, and I've learned a lot about like a lot of different historical places that Black people are, and we could call it Blacks in Columbus.
Permission to speak?
Go ahead.
There you go.
I think one of the messages that came out of this, if I understand correctly, is that Elder Darryl was in his Sabayet was basically saying no matter where we were from, we practiced the culture, and so we all. I mean, and it's amazing. I used to try to figure out like how come they know them dance steps in Chicago and in Cleveland. No matter where we are, we practice our culture. What I think was being said is we're not recognizing that that's what we do. So we're all on the same ship and we're all going in the same direction, but it's just like what his sister Bobby says with that quilting thing that she has, Mama Eunice. Remember, the quilt will be hung up and only certain people could read what the heck was on it. And it was telling the folks who were going to run or who were going to leave the plantation when to go, where the dogs were, where this all. So that's what we're talking about. So you're absolutely right. But we're all one family. Mm-hmm. We're all one family. That's what I think was being said. But we just got to recognize and say we're all one family. But and some people may not get it. Fine, they may not get it on Tuesday or Kuji Chagalia Day, but maybe on Imani Day they'll get it. But eventually they'll get it. We're all one family. I can't stress enough how I think it's important that we identify, those landmarks. And I think the idea of, of making a little book or pamphlet, I think that's fine. But I also think that, we can go bigger than that. If we identify, when we identify those landmarks and things, then we can have a petition for more community support. And then once we get the petition enough signatures, then we can present that to city council and have plaques put in those sacred spaces, identifying those landmarks. So it permanently, because it's so important that the future generations know that we were here. That the area over there by the South River downtown, over where Central High School used to be, where COSI is, and Franklinton is now, that's where Blacks were assigned to live in the beginning stages of Columbus, Ohio. And the only reason they gave us that area is because at that time it was swampy over there by the water, and it would have mosquito infestation every year. So that was a bad place to live. And so they assigned that area to us. But that's where we first were settling during, the infant stages of Columbus, Ohio. Also, I was reading somewhere that somebody found a burial ground, a graveyard up in Upper Arlington, that dates back into the 1800s, early 1800s, maybe 1700s. So that means we were living there at that time. So there's lots of places, lots of things that that need to be identified that will show that we were here, and the fighting to identify those landmarks will not be wasted, not just on us, but it's for the future generation. That's what we have to keep in mind. It's not about us. It's about those people coming after us. We have to think just like those before thought. Like I said, before, they fought, they sacrificed, they struggled for the love of us, because we were the future. So, and that's the way we have to think, not just for us, but for those coming after us. I yield.
Permission to speak.
They both, bro.
So echoing what Elder Darryl said and repeating what Mama Exetu said, one of the things that can be a challenge, but at the same time, a kind of inspiration is to understand, just as Baba Darryl said, that, you know, you are the story. We are the story.
That's
If
right.
you know, if you truly come to understand that we are the story, then we are presently writing the script. We are creating the narrative.
Right.
Our people had a way of mapping everything according to what they knew. So when they looked to the heavens, you could find the Nile in the sky. When you thought of the underworld, you thought of the Nile in the underworld.
That's right.
As above, so below. But the way that they phrased it was, what was atop of the earth is the same as what is on the earth, is the same as what is below the earth. Because they mapped those things that they were not necessarily familiar with by the things they were. And we could probably explore a little more Mama Margarita's notion of tradition and understanding. Even as we phrased, let me think of how to phrase it. Let's use our modes of communication. So I was rapping with one of my brothers at one point. He was, kind of frustrated because his daughter wasn't calling him regularly. And she would occasionally text him, right? And he's on the phone with me and we're talking. And I was like, well, bruh, she is communicating with you. And he's like, well, she's not calling me. I said, hold up, bruh. I said, our tradition was to call. But today's tradition is texting. Communication is whatever means you use to convey a message or to receive one. I said, so you have to change your understanding of, communication, or else you have to update and say more explicitly, I want to hear my daughter's voice. I yield.
Permission to speak? Yeah, both. That's so true. And way back when, it was to visit. You had to actually visit. Because I remember that when we went over to the in-laws' house, the young children were asked to do something in the living room or the parlor. And then once they did something, said something, or sang, or whatever that we did, then we were supposed to go, be seen and not heard. And then when the telephone came along, it was on the telephone with the party line, and so that visual for me, Bravo, Kwame, was absolutely on the mark. As the technology changes, so does the way that particular group that was used to the older technology still interacts with it, but the newer group, they now uses that. So thanks for bringing that to mind. I yield.
Permission to complete a thought.
They both, bro.
So I dealt with the tradition aspect of it. The cultural piece is that there must be a means of communication. That's the cultural piece. The traditions may change, but the culture is the one thing that ties all them traditions together, whether it be to survive in one instance, but you build upon those traditions that are most, let me use the word, you build up on the traditions that are most effective for the quality of life you want to lead. By building on those traditions, that helps to establish cultural norms. They may change via the traditions, but the norm remains the same. I yield.
Okay. I guess I would just add that culture ties us to the Creator. How we believe, how we see ourselves. Our culture connects us to the Creator. So every time we practice our practice our culture, we are connecting to the Creator. Also, this is just a side note because this just came to me. When I was talking about over that area over there in the Scioto River and Cosi and all that, and that being, where we were assigned to live. Wall Street in New York. The reason it was called it was given the name Wall Street was because when they were first building the city, they built a wall where the road where Wall Street is now to keep the Indians out. Keep those, I'm not going to call them Indians, those indigenous people, because those people were us as well. And that's something that we need to investigate as well. But the wall was meant to keep those indigenous people out. And again, they assigned land for the Black people to live on the other side of the wall, putting us in between the indigenous people and everybody else. So just something to think about. Education. I think that, like I mentioned earlier, we've always had a great appreciation for education. We didn't let the law stop us from learning how to read. And we did everything that we could to create our own schools to teach our children. And the education of our children, and I'm not saying nothing that none of us don't know, is so key to our children's development, to their mental development, how they're educated. It's so important that they go to those HBCU schools if they can. It's so important that we educate our children ourselves whenever we can. That's not, we shouldn't be so blasé about they just go to any school or whatever. No, it's important that we educate our own children and not forget that those people that they call themselves teachers, and I'm not saying that all the teachers are bad or whatever, but part of them, when you look at our children, the little children, when you look at them and look at their faces and you see and they smile and you see that light in their face, it shines. And then you start to understand that there's people that want to snuff that light out. They want to snuff that light out of the faces of our children. So that's something that we can never forget and never get so comfortable that we think everything is going to be all right, because it's not. I yield. Comments or questions?
I think, I guess my way of saying what Baba Darryl said is, it'll be what you make it.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, it'll be what we make it.
Permission to speak.
You both, sis.
I just want to say that this has just been an awesome exchange of ideas. You know, it's even when I have my mic off, I'm saying, well, yeah. This has been great. Thank you, Brother Darryl.
Thank you, sis.
And everybody else. Yeah.
And thank the family, all of us. Any other comments or questions or ideas? This is what makes a good divine conversation. Well, while we're still thinking of some questions or comments,
I got a
I think I'm
comment.
Okay.
Because I might be a little bit late because I had to step away for a minute. I was listening on the phone, making sure that it was clear and stuff like that. But one of the things one of the things.
Oh, somebody's speaking already.
One of the things, because I want to go back to, because Brother Lumala brought up a point, and it's like, it's kind of both and, you know what I'm saying? So, the education piece, I don't know how far back that was, but when y'all start speaking about the education piece, that's one of the most important aspects that we have to kind of start snatching control of.
That's right.
In order to make sure that the lessons that our young people they're getting, which means that many of us will have to be volunteering in these schools or setting up our schools or setting up functions like this where we get young people so that we can start exposing them to some of the lessons that they may need. Because yes, we do operate within our culture. We do have old things that pop up that's been with us for a long time, but we also have a lot of new stuff that is not really healthy for us, that is also equated with our culture. And one of the places that we could get and dismantle some of those dysfunctional things that are popping off with us is in the places where our children are held hostage for about 6 to 8 hours 5 days out the week. You know, I mean, because the piece is we haven't really lost our culture, but there are other aspects that have been forced into us because of the situation we are in here in America as well as in the diaspora, because we have all been forced to have to fit in and use someone else's model. So we had to adjust what we have. So I think the challenge for us would be, how do we get involved with the education? How do we take over the education of our children to make sure that those cultural values are being put into them? I mean, because it's easy. I'm telling y'all right now, because these schools, they need help, especially right now. Everything is happening online, and right now, y'all know GNJMedia, you know, we able to do a lot of stuff online, family, and we can start taking advantage of this time we have to start making sure that the healthy parts of our culture are stressed and demonstrated. And also, let me say this: another aspect of the education piece is this whole social media piece. You know what I'm saying? Because being mindful of what we put up. Because I challenge people every day when we do the daily toast to activate what's called the reticular formation and look for our principles, because they're there. It's just a matter of us being able to identify them and then share them. Because all of us that have Facebook pages, all of us that have Twitter feeds, all of us that have YouTube channels, we can go a long way in helping spreading the healthy aspect of our culture by sharing that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And not passing on some of the sickness that we see that's out there. Some of it's very entertaining. I'm not gonna lie. You already know how Brother Hatim is. You know, because one minute I could be a philosopher, next minute I'm a fool. But that's what I do. You know what I'm saying? But I got an Elder Tony to balance me out. You know what I'm saying? I got an Elder Darryl to balance me out. I got a Tara Hassa to balance me out. You know what I'm saying? But how can I put it? Are we spreading the best aspects of our culture? And are we making sure that the best aspects of our culture are being reflected in these educational institutions? Because I'm telling you, family, they holding our children hostage 6 to 8 hours a day, and we have no contact with them.
That's right. And children learn from what they see, not what they're told.
Permission to speak.
But on that note, I want to read that quote by Martin Delaney again. We must make an issue, create an event, and establish a national position for ourselves, and never may expect to be respected as men and women until we have undertaken some fearless, bold, and adventurous deeds of daring, contending against every odd, regardless of every consequence. We have to do it.
Mama Margarita wanted to speak.
Yes, Elder Green, thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for sharing your educational skills of Tawi learning. We are very pleased that you are coming back with a strong Tai Chi movement to continue with our struggle. Let's continue working together.
Thank you, sis.
We will win. You were supposed to say that, Mama Margarita. What's going on here?
We will win.
You got to keep your brand strong. That's your brand.
We will win. We will win.
That's right.
And speaking
no
of
nasty words, okay?
Yes, ma'am. And speaking of that, for those that are listening, Elder Darryl Green is putting together an e-course where he's teaching basic movements, and it will be available soon. So y'all be on the lookout. You know, so because I put out the challenge and he answered the call. Also, if I could, with this whole cultural piece, family, listen. Just, because I want y'all to think about this. If y'all been listening, you hear some people say Tuesday, and then they'll go Kuji Chaglia Day. Important aspect of spreading the culture is kind of changing and adjusting our language. So when Gianni started pushing this whole piece about the days and just shifting the days, it doesn't take, because a lot of times people think it takes something big to really manifest. But it actually, in many cases, it is something as small as the flutter of a butterfly's wing that can actually change things. So we threw that piece out there about the whole day piece. And like I said, it's spreading like wildfire. And we got to keep pushing that type of stuff. Just little small things. You know what I'm saying? Like what stories are we telling? What stories are we telling about Tawi, about Gianni, about Simba, about all these organizations? What are the stories out there? What are the narratives out there? And are we taking control of these narratives as was brought forth earlier in our discussion? Because culture is passed on more so by stories than by anything else.
That's right.
I'll say.
So what book were you pulling from, bruh? The Book of Chaos Theory or Catastrophe Theory?
I like chaos. I am a child of chaos. I was created in chaos. I rose from the chaos and I created myself. You know what
Your
I'm
saying? Mama and your papa created you in a terminite.
Right, in chaos. I was created in chaos. I arose out of chaos and I spoke my own name.
Yeah.
There you go.
I like that. So you're basically saying you're Kirikou.
I love it.
I prefer Anansi because Anansi got a story about him creating himself and coming, you know. But you know, well, I'm trickster. I'm, you know, in many cases, and Kirikou was a trickster. I'm a trickster. Yeah, in many ways, I am. Yes.
Of creating.
Well, we'll discuss that one later. I am standing in front of the monument that you talked about. I'm in Franklin Park. It is live. People are doing all kinds of events here. There's a sound system set up about as soon as you come in the gate. I think one group is setting up their sound system to talk. Another group is over at the area where we used to hold GNT. There's another group over there, so the park is alive. But the place where I'm at is says war. It is all hell. This is at the monument that you spoke about. I thought it would be important that since we talked about these places, that like I normally do, we physically will be there, so all of us have one visual that whatever it is that I'm standing in front of it in Franklin Park. So I yield. I will be here until we end. Thank you.
All right, for 15 points, who can name the biker that Baba Tony always takes us by to see a statue?
Yeah.
Hey man, we need to give away a real prize for that. Who can name the biker? What's Sister Navita? Because she always had a good prizes and stuff. And she makes sure people get them. I mean, that's the type of stuff we could do, not only for the adults, but as well as the children. And let me say this: on her recent show of Blunt Talk, we was talking about the cis culture. And my argument is that there's nothing wrong with our children. You know what I'm saying? It's not children that we need to be focusing on developing a culture with. For me, I believe it's the adults because the children model us. You know what I'm saying? And that's the only point I was trying to make. I'm throwing that in there. Hopefully, Sister Navita heard it. She got irritated and will call in, and we could go and continue this discussion. But the point is, culture is passed on from adults to children.
Right?
When children start learning, when children have to start developing their own culture, it's because there's a disconnection from the adults and what's going on in the world at that time.
That's right.
Now, I'm going to ask you, Brother Hatim, if I may have permission to speak. Brother Hatim, draw the correlation between a culture medium, like in my Kwame drink, let's say, and the culture that we are supposed to be practicing.
Culture medium is a medium is something that communicates or that sends the information through. So a cultural medium will be like the drum. If I'm hearing your question correctly, a cultural medium will be like the drum or the break dancing or the rapping or the way you talk. The actual culture, as Elder Darryl said, traces us back and connects us with what was called the creator. But I won't go any deeper than that because
Permission to speak.
Wait, let him finish first. Let him finish first.
No, because I was about to go off the rails, and if I go off the rails, you know, that trickster spirit will start, and I'll start arguing.
I wanted to keep you on the rails. I wanted to keep you on the rails. But go ahead, Mama Margarita.
Thank you. Do animals have a culture?
Do who?
Do animals?
Oh yeah, lions. Think about this. Every especially mammals. Let's talk about mammals. If you ever see my commercial where I talk about what is a whale without its pod?
That's right.
What's a lion without its pack? Those are cultural. For them, those are cultural things. So even animals on a basic level form groups. Wherever there's a group, there's a culture. Because that culture, how can I put it? That culture is, in a sense, the spirit of the people. Now, the issue becomes whether you have a culture or a subculture. What's a subculture? A subculture is a culture that serves another culture. So what we have to become clear on is what we practice in a culture, or it is a subculture, which means sub means below. You below something. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to be clear and identify those elements within what we practice. Is this a cultural thing or is this a subcultural thing?
So for example, dance was part of our culture. We used it as an initiation, a rites of passage, but somehow it became bastardized. And even though there are those of us who still have it as a rites of passage and practice it as such, there are others of us who have adopted, and I emphasize this, the mores of another people's practice with what was an intrinsic part of our culture. Now, I know that seems like a lot of words, but I'm sure you grasp the point. The dance was part of our culture. That's how we communicated. That's how we transitioned from one stage to the next. And then when we became part of another group or amongst another group, even though we still use these same dances as such to do those things that benefited our culture, but because some of those of us have adopted the mores of another people, and so that what was cultural to us, the dance, is now serving the interests of someone else.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, because I had a conversation with one of the Gianni brothers, Elder Tony West's son, the other day, and just yesterday. And one of the key pieces that Allende has been pushing for years is learning how to direct the energy of those of our people for the building of our people. Because there are certain segments of our culture or our people that we will almost neglect or push away or not even deal with because we don't think they have a place. Right? Like, for example, in my experience, I have ran into warrior spirits in our community that have been totally isolated and not directed by us because they're untouchables to us because it's dangerous. Like for a long time, like for example, an issue that I had for years was like, I don't know if a lot of y'all knew this, but in grant writing for years, we couldn't use the term warrior. Did y'all know this?
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to use the word warrior because the people that would be funding our projects would feel uncomfortable with the word warrior. What is warrior? What is a warrior? One who is experienced or involved in conflict. The center of that word is war. So those individuals who actually exemplify that, we kind of almost turn our backs on in our culture, rather than directing that energy. So then what do? They go out and they form a subculture that ends up serving another culture that is not ours. See, because I want y'all to, we got to be very clear. Not only do we need well-educated people, we need people who don't have a problem killing.
That's right.
Y'all, but nobody want to touch on that shit.
That's right.
But and every last one of us got a cousin that we don't want to deal with until there's an issue. Everybody got that Pookie, that Geronimo. We all got them, but we don't want to deal with them until it's necessary, right? Because Pookie will lay it down. Pookie. And every last one of us probably in this room got stories of individuals in our family that will come to our rescue and will sit it down for 20 years because they did what nobody else in our group would do. But yet we turn our back on that. You know what they call that in the white community? Do y'all know what they call them? They call them special forces. What we call them in our community, we call them thugs. We get disrespectful with them. We say they serve no purpose. No, they set up a whole structure where they got motherfuckers that are experts at stealing, robbing, and killing, and it's called the military, and we shake our head at that. Yeah, go support the troops. But when it comes to ours, what do? I'm sorry. See, there I go. I'm off the rails.
No, but you on point.
You know, that's where I come in at and say, so we're not going to discuss warriors and what warriors supposed to do. How can we sit here and say that we are practicing our culture when we're missing key points in our culture that needs to be taught and learned?
And that's what I'm saying. There's a balance because we are celebrating our culture. We are practicing parts of our culture. And we need to up more the parts that we're practicing. But we do need to have discussions like you're talking about the parts of culture, because culture is an organism. It's a living organism. And it's the issue that a lot of us don't understand. Every organism has a system of protection.
And then when we send our kids off into the military,
right.
Even the military, it's the military culture that they're going to be practicing, everybody, and that's nothing but fighting and killing, because these white folks up in Washington, D.C. is always talking about sending troops somewhere to fight and kill.
And protect them.
Now, but let me tell you, let me give you a demonstration where that worked for us. There was a young man by the name of Geronimo Pratt. See, now, this is the issue that a lot of people see, because a lot of people spoke, but I had, somebody broke in and stole all my shit. I had an actual interview where I brought Geronimo Pratt in. Listen, I brought Geronimo Pratt in to discuss with my kids, to have a conversation with my kid, and he allowed me to record it. When he got done talking to me, he said, "Brother, the stuff that I did for you, Oprah offered me $1 million for. But I refuse to do it because that is not what I stand for. But with you, you do whatever you want with the interview." We sat there, he talked with my kids. He told me point blank, first off, like, for example, we got a lot of his stories that be like, somebody, once again, here at GM, y'all should know this, but what organization did Geronimo Pratt belong to?
Black Panther Party.
Wrong.
Wrong?
Deacons of defense.
He was
CIA.
Deacons of defense.
He was a deacon of defense. And he was sent to the Black Panther Party because they saw these young people with this spirit, but they was doing it wrong and they needed training, so he was sent to them. But before he was sent to them, his elders, through their community, watched him and gave him an assignment, and the first assignment was going to Vietnam. We need these skills, and we need you to come back so that you could teach other young people the skills that you get. Not only did I get this interview, and not only was I sitting in there, I got 2 other nation builders and about 20 young people that could back me up with what the fuck I'm saying.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? So he went to the military, he got the skills, he brought it back, and was assigned to help train the Black Panther Party when the Deacons of Defense in New Orleans, in Louisiana, where he was, determined that they needed help. They sent him, they dispatched him. And we got little pockets of individuals, you know what I'm saying? Because even whether you become a scientist, once you lay down the cultural framework for an individual, they'll understand. You know what I'm saying? They'll understand. We got to lay down the cultural framework so when our children go become police officers, when they become militaries, when they go to the military, when they become politicians, that cultural framework is laying. That living organism is still beating in them.
Right.
So that when we call, they respond.
They come. That's right.
It was and one more thing. It was an interview. I watch a lot of interviews, as y'all know, because I post them up on my thing. But there was an interview with. First off, let me preface it with this. So there was this dude. I think his name is not Gambino, Bonanno. Bonanno was a head of one of the La Castra Nostra, one of those tribes. They call the mafia, right? Which is basically a tribal thing. When they talk to him, do you know what he called what they do? Anybody ever keep up with what they call what they call it? He called it a social, huh?
It means our thing.
Right. But when they tried to arrest him, he said, "Man, this is nothing but a cultural organization. I'm uplifting my culture. I'm protecting my culture. Right? By any means necessary." That sound familiar?
Okay. Yeah.
Now, so there was another dude that gave an interview. I can't remember his name. He said that his father was in the mafia and decided that he was going to become a doctor. He didn't want to become a doctor, but the money was there, so he was going through the school. And when his father got put in prison, he decided that he was going to go another way. And his father said, "I don't want this for you, but if you're going to do this, I want you to do it the right way. So I'm going to connect you with the right people." So his father got on the phone, put in a call, and he received a call, and they asked him, they said, "So I'm understanding you want to be in this thing of ours. You want to be in this?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Listen, your responsibilities are very simple. We come first." Now, I'm going to connect this back to what we talking about. We come first. If you are at your mother's deathbed and we call, you are to answer. No excuses are allowed. Once you accept this, you are part of us, and we come first. Now, I going back to my brother Alumala's point, we don't have that yet.
No.
We can come up with all types of excuses, and everybody be cool with that. We don't have that yet. And I think in some sense of fashion, far as culture, because when it comes to their culture, regardless of what their culture is, whether you agree with it, whether you disagree with it, when it calls, They answer. Can we say the same for what we do? Do we take our thing, as we say, Ka'in here in Giami, or Ka'in in the language? Do we take our thing that serious?
No.
Don't get me talking about no culture. Hey, Elder Green, this is your show, man. Let me turn off my mic.
Brother Hatim, permission to speak.
I'll go. You didn't take over, bro. Everything you said still fits into everything that we talked about.
Brother Hatim, permission to speak. Elder Darryl.
Yeah, bro.
Everything Elder, and I'm putting him in the elders category, Hatim said is true. It's still existence. When the call comes, there are those of us who know the call and will respond.
Yeah, they do have some of us that will do that. And, but, we need more than just one or two people, because as Tim said, that, that one person was told that, but everybody else still doing it. You see what I'm saying? I mean,
I said those of us. I did not say one of us, and I'm stopped talking after that. There's those of us that when the call comes, we will respond.
Huh?
I yield.
They already paid for it?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to say, Elder, but, our culture is not an individual culture. It's a community culture, And if we're not going to be in the community, if we're not going to act as a communal people, then one or two people may get shot down, may get killed. You know what I'm saying? And what's behind them to take their place? Who's with them to let them know that, be careful, there's a bullet there, he has a gun, or whatever the case may be. That's how I see it, Because we like to talk about, things that we are doing as individuals, and that's great. But as a communal culture of things, sometimes we can't even find 5 people to show up that stuff because they put other things that they're doing, and we say, okay, let's come to Kwanzaa. Let's do this here at Kwanzaa. Man, you may not even have 3 people. You know what I'm saying? 2 people. But we'll justify that and say, well, if 3 or more people are coming together, then that's enough. How we look at that? How are we supposed to be looking at that?
Yeah,
you can do anything you need to.
Because now, Illumilad, those are the 3 that we need to really focus on. See, because now, because we got to really look at how other cultures run. You know what I'm saying? We really got to look at how our ancient cultures run. Because I want y'all to, because we, in many ways, we have this fantasy, I believe, about African people and about our ancient African ancestors. Mm-hmm. That everybody got along and everybody, took responsibility. And not realizing that some of the basic human traits that every culture is dealing with has always been there. Laziness, greed. You know what I'm saying? This is why we had the negative confessions, because that shit actually existed. Right? And because I don't want us to miss the mark. What we need to do is celebrate those 3 that are there, but we need to have some type of mechanism that holds everybody else responsible, especially those who have, in a sense, taken the oath to live this life.
But look, check this out here. Okay, so even in our family, you got grandmother, you got your mother, you may not have your father, but you got your uncles and all of them. Look, they may not be around all the time, but all grandmother got to do is say, I need y'all here, and they show up. You see what I'm saying? They show up. It ain't like, well, wait till I finish this. No, I'm coming to see. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm that's the stuff I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how it was in my family.
Right.
You know, my aunts and them, you know, I didn't grow up with a father, but, you know, I had uncles all around me, teaching me, showing me, doing things that fathers do for children who don't have fathers. You know what I'm saying? But that stuff has to be taught too. You see, you know, and you can't just let that stuff go by the wayside like it ain't happening. You know, we got to call people attention to that kind of stuff. You know, that's what makes a strong family. I know we got weak people in the family, but even like you said earlier, even a person who'd have been to jail, who's your mother's brother or something, you call him, shoot, he gonna be there if he ain't in jail. And then when he leaves and then he gets the message and everything gets done, guess what? He may go back to jail. But that don't discount him. You can't discount people, you know what I'm saying? You can discount them if they ain't doing nothing to help the family. Oh yeah, you can discount them.
See, but now this gets to a point. Permission to speak. Y'all already know how I get. This gets to the point. This gets to one of the points, right? Big Mama, Granddaddy, all those people are loyal to those individuals. We have. This is why one of the things that I ran into and I constantly talk with people about is this whole tribe piece. Like, for example, with Kwanzaa, with GNJMedia, there's certain things that I can make a requirement because I have a tribe. If you don't have that leadership, then everybody can opt out. When Big Mama call, everybody know that in some form or fashion, their life is connected to Big Mama's life. How dare you not show up to Big Mama's dinner? When Big Mama call, not only is Big Mama gonna say something to you, but Cousin Leroy and everybody else is gonna be like, nigga, is you out your mind? See, how can I put it? It's almost like we constructed this illusion that there was no goddamn leadership in our culture. But yet we want to pick up, we only talk about pharaohs and shit. We ain't talking about the common people. We talk about Pharaoh. What did Pharaoh mean? They'd be like, well, Pharaoh had a council, but if Pharaoh decided that somebody on that council had to die, what happened?
Right.
They died.
We don't want to deal with the leadership aspect and the responsibility and blood in, blood out type shit that other cultures do.
Mm-hmm.
We want to spiritualize ourselves out of reality. I'm not on that. This is one of the reasons, and elders get mad at me. People be mad. This is one of the reasons I don't rock with that whole consistency thing, because it gives motherfuckers room to wiggle out of everything. No, you gonna do this. One of the major points in GNJMedia is make it happen.
I love it.
Make it happen. So I could give a young man a responsibility that is way above his head, and I say some term like make it happen, but you better be within the 7 B's when you make it happen. He'll understand what I'm saying, and he will go out and make it happen. I've seen young people at 16, 17, 18 raise $5,000 to get a group of young people to be able to go to Simba Camp because I just gave you want to belong here? Make it happen. No, we don't do that. Y'all, man, let me go and get off of this, man. Y'all killing me, man.
Don't worry about it. Keep on talking. We let people do anything they want to do. That's why things are like they are. We ain't holding nobody responsible. We don't even hold ourselves responsible, and we make excuses on why things are like they are. Things are like they are because this is how we choose them to be. When we begin to choose correctly, then they correct themselves. We ain't got no laws that govern nothing, inside the village. And if we do have them, they're not being used properly.
But I will back it. I will come behind you and say, right. But I will come behind you and say, bruh, we do have to recognize there's some good stuff going on.
Well, I mean, look, We got good stuff going on in our families too. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But there's some bad stuff too. We got to look, the good, you got to leave it good, but the bad, you got to correct to make it good. You know what I'm saying? You got to make it good. You know what I'm saying? And we can't go around here living on fantasy world, living on fantasy like everything is okay, because it's not okay. Our culture is if everybody look. The reason why white people and Europeans treat our culture the way they do is because this is how we see ourselves in our culture. That's the reason, man. You know what I'm saying? There's no other reason, because if we saw ourselves differently, shit, we'd be able to stand up against anything. There's more of us than them.
So go ahead and give your quote on what I just said, Tim. No one's going to respect your...
Nobody should respect your shit more than you. No, nobody will respect your shit more than you, nor should they.
Okay.
Bottom line.
That's right.
Gianni quotable. Nobody will respect your shit, nor should they, more than you.
And if they are disrespecting your shit, then you need to check yourself.
And check them. I mean, we don't even have.
Then you'll be able to check them.
Right.
Yeah,
see,
absolutely.
And that's when Pookie come in handy. That's what we need the Pookies and the Mouses for, so that they could go and do some checking for us. But hey, I mean, like I said, we will erase ourselves from that and be like, that's not part of our culture. But we got whole stories of deities that are incredible when it comes to there is, as far as in all my readings, I have never ran into nobody more gangster than, I'm going to use the Greek name because people know it as that, more gangster than Hathor. I have never ran into any story more gangster than the goddess Hathor. More gangster. When Ra wanted to bring the world in order, what he do? He let Hathor go. And once he let Hathor go, the way she ran through mud people and whoever was in her way made everybody queasy at their stomach. We got that in our culture. But we don't want to embrace that part of our culture. We don't want to embrace the shadow, or what's called the shadow of our culture. And I'm like, yo, if we going to have culture, we got to embrace the whole damn thing. Culture.
Family.
I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to help make it clear. Family, the shadow is a metaphor for those aspects of yourself that you don't want to recognize or refuse to acknowledge. The shadow are those aspects of yourself that you do not want to recognize or refuse to acknowledge. Go ahead, Brother Hatem.
No, you mean go ahead, Brother Darryl. Are we at the...
No, he was correct. Go ahead, Brother Hatem. Listen. Now you're going to gangster us and act like you're not gangstering us.
No, he's not gangstering us. Because
yes, he is. Yes, he is, and that's okay. I'm not using it as a negative term. I'm using it as a positive term.
Okay. What he's describing is that other half. See,
right. When you speak truth, truth is true.
And when you talk about when we revere Martin Luther King and the nonviolent thing, it had to be Malcolm. In his position, that was the balance. If there was no Malcolm, Martin may not have been as successful as he was. If you want to consider that. But yeah, we have to have that other side. Our children have to see us fight for them. Right? It's not a joke, it's a real thing. Now some of the things, that were said, I agree with everything. But some things may not need to have been said online, but in a way they should have been. because everybody's not on the same page as far as recognizing that balance. So somebody got to scream. Somebody has to tell the truth. Like the star Sirius, or they call it Sirius. They call it the dog star, because it announced. It only appeared when it was time for the floods to come. So whenever that star appeared, it was like a dog yapping. All right, here comes the flood. Well, we need that. Somebody has to be yapping. Somebody got to tell us, hey, this is happening. This is what we need to do. And sometimes it is any means necessary. So I'm not in disagreement at all. Comments, questions?
I don't think anybody is. Permission to speak?
This is family talk.
Okay. This is like when we were on that island. Where was that island? Up there in the up off of Cleveland, where we went for the rites of passage. Remember we was on that island?
Yeah. I think.
And a situation came up on that island with the Europeans on that island, and it was getting real tense. The only way we could get off the island is by the ferry boats.
Yeah.
But and the situation arose with.
Was that Mackinac Island? That Mackinac Island?
No.
Was the island named for a little Irish girl?
No, it was Puddin' Bay.
Puddin' Bay.
Island.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the situation grew tense with one of the sisters who was having a call or situation with the owners of the cafe where we were standing. And the word was given to stand up. And we all stood up. And it would have got physical, and we were ready at that time. So I understood exactly what Brother Hatim was saying. And that's why I was saying that those of us who know what's going on, but I don't mean to change the conversation. And Elder Darryl, you know exactly what situation I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And we were ready. We could not get off the island unless the ferry took us off. But we were ready to stand there and deal with that whole situation and back them down because they came at us. So we have been doing things. I just wanted to point out stuff. Please don't make it seem like we haven't been doing anything. And I know that's not what you were saying, but I just wanted to bring that point out. And Brother Hatim, thank you for your testimony. At least that's my personal opinion. And I'm standing right here at the monument in Franklin Park.
Go ahead and give his name, Baba Tony, since no one else is.
The monument is given to another general, but the brothers and stuff, we're still going to have to research that. It was General Tecumseh Sherman, which we have some whole nother thing about with that. At the time, this was called the Ohio State Fairgrounds. And this was erected in August the 11th, 1949. This is way after the Civil War. But this is where the troops from the North, the black troops from the North, were gathered to go from the South. And like Elder Darryl had pointed out in his Sabayet and in his piece today, we was already doing that. All they did is gathered up the folks who was already fighting and made them Union soldiers. So anyway, that's where this is. It's called, and you know, this is 1949, so it's like that. But Elder Kelsey put this out to us, about 30, 40 years ago. And we've been still trying to research the rest of it because this is, it was Ohio State Fairground property. Franklin Park used to be that before it became this. So we will continue to research that so we can get the other information about that. Short ways down the road, there's other things that have been erected, but That's where I am. So we're talking about the right stuff, and I'm at the right spot. So again, elders and Brother Darryl, Brother Kwame, and Brother Hatim, thank you very much. Because while y'all are talking, I'm right here at the site where this thing really kicked off way back in the Civil War. So all of the talk, I would say, or all of the spiritual thing that happens, especially with you bringing the point up, Brother Alumala, they're here with me saying thank you. At least that's my understanding of what's going on. I yield.
I should.
We've never backed down from a fight.
And that's a piece that that needs to be stressed. We got to understand we come from a long legacy of fighters, whether they fought.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you listen to the history that they're giving us, you know what I'm saying? Oh, it was long suffering. No, we always had those elements within our community that was willing to put it all on the line.
That's right.
All on the line.
And that's why they had to bomb Greensboro.
That's why they had to
won the fight.
Right.
We won the fight, so they had to go to the air.
See, and a lot of people don't. When people talking about what happened, because first off, I ain't gonna say I'm sick of hearing about the Black Wall Street and stuff like that. The only reason I say that is because there was Black Wall Streets all over this country, and we focus on one because they got bombed. But as Elder Tony just brought up, the only reason they got bombed was because they was getting their ass whooped trying to get at them. Because the brothers put up a fight, the sisters put up a fight, and everybody worked together and basically beat them motherfuckers down to a standstill to where they had to fly in planes to bomb them in order to have victory. But nobody want to talk about that. We want to talk about, we had the economic peace and blah, 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 but nobody want to talk about that they was able to hold these crackers off. They had to bring crackers in from, I want you to think about it. They brought crackers in from out of state. They brought out-of-state crackers in and still couldn't get at us. They had to bomb it.
And going back to what Geronimo Pratt told you, see, a lot of those brothers had come out of World War I.
Exactly.
World War One. Fought in France. That's right.
Sent, and some of them may have been sent so that they can try, because our people have been. We have been doing this, but like I said, somewhere along the line there was some type of split. I don't know where the split was. I'm not a historian. Maybe we might need to get a historian to look at the split. Because there's no way that you could talk about building a culture and not have a defense mechanism. There's no way you could do it. No way. You can't talk about a nation. You can't talk about building, and you can't even talk about building a neighborhood if you ain't got a neighborhood security force. How is it that we've been talking nation building all this time and we ain't talking warrior shit?
Better say that.
Because of religion.
Well, I mean, most of us don't have the religious excuse. Most of us in here don't have the religious excuse. And those of us that are religious in this group that are or follow, we have an understanding where I'm just saying. I mean, but it ain't just necessarily for our group, because there's going to be other people listening to this, because y'all need to realize that we're recording not just for those that are listening now, but we're recording for about 25 years from now, when a young person might pick up this day right now and be like, well, we're going to listen and see what they're saying, because this is going to be around, and they're going to click the button, and they might get some information from us that they need.
And that's why all of this is so important. The children, they have to see us fight. They have to see that. They have to see that we feel strong enough that we'll stand up. Because again, like I said earlier, children, they learn from what they see. When they see us fight, they'll fight. But if they see us talking about, well, let's talk about it, and those are valid, tactics and all that. But at some point, you have to be willing to stand up for yourself. That's just life. That's just life.
And I think you're right, Elder Darryl, even though, we don't want to see it. But when I was growing up in New Orleans, man, when Martin Luther King got killed, I wasn't even old enough to go into the pool halls, but the community leaders came out on the outside and mostly kind of like gathered the young together to tell us what was going on. You know what I'm saying? And riots started at, we started riots after that. You know what I'm saying? We were bombing white people's houses, throwing bombs in their houses. You know what I'm saying? Look, because this is what needs to take place. Peace is fine, peace is good, but war is gooder. Because white folks don't understand if you ain't talking about war. They don't understand that because their whole mechanism is about war. That may not be our whole mechanism, but we need to have that component in our building. We need to have that component. I don't care. You get on your knees and pray, and the motherfucker will still come in your house while you're on your knees. If that's how you pray. But I mean, that's what we keep stressing this over and over. And I think that, whatever organization that we have, we need to have those kind of things in place, those mechanisms in place. Because once they find out that you don't have it, shit, they ain't worried about you no more. You can't get past Broad Street. Can't get past Broad Street. I yield.
So, elders, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I'm gonna let y'all know. I mean, of course, we streaming on GNJMedia. You go to GNJ.media.live, but we are at 2 hours and 13 minutes. Yes, sir.
Are you saying GNJ.media or GNJmedia.live?
I'm saying GNJ.media. I'm still
be careful because
right.
You had the live, right? So
right. Okay. Cool. All right. We on both of them. I'm gonna maintain those for a while, but eventually we're gonna move to GNJ.media and only be streaming through there. Because whether the family know it or not, we got our own. Basically, it's like YouTube, so it don't even matter. We got our own shit. But anyway, elders, we are at 2 hours and 13 minutes. Y'all can decide on what direction we go from here. Like I said, I'm here at the service of the tribe or the village. So y'all let me know what y'all want to do. But I'm gonna turn it back over to the presiding editor at this point in time is Elder Darryl Green. I'm gonna turn it over to you so you can decide on which direction we go from here. Because you see the lines people have fell off the lines because we've been on too long. They believe we've been on too long. I'm just saying. I'm throwing it out there.
Reason. Well, let's just say this. Well, first, are there any other questions and comments? And if not, then let's close.
I have a question. Permission to speak?
Yeah, go.
Brother Hatim, did you get the picture I sent?
Hold on. If I got the picture, I will put it up on the screen. If you text it to me, I'll get it. Give me a second.
Yeah, I already did. Okay, Elder Darryl, then I'm finished. I'm standing here facing the monument right now.
Okay. Okay, in closing. To the ancestors, we hope that you are pleased, and if there is something that has been done that we have not done, let us take some time to think about it. the end is as it was in the beginning. Let us depart with the spirit of Ra, life, power, and health, and everything is one. Ashe.
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 May I have permission to leave the monument?
They both.
Well, it's up on the screen now, Elder Tony.
Thank you. As you can tell, I'm outside because there's the fire department. Oh, by the way, while I was standing here, I got questioned by some Europeans. It was really good.
All right, family, we want to thank y'all for joining us.
You getting ready to leave now?
Well, no, you ain't
Yes,
got
I'm walking away.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm backing away.
Okay.
So we want to thank everybody for joining us. Remember, become a member of GNJ.media. Go to GNJ.media. Go and click the try button and link up with us. Also, we want to thank the elders for having, because we had a great conversation today.
And remember the Children of the Sun e-course.
Remember the Children of the Sun e-course. It will be coming up because I'm looking at. I gotta cut his video because he got a deadline for me by tomorrow. So I'm looking at the video and I go, ooh, I didn't cut it. So I'm about to cut up the video and get stuff together for him. But family, go on and listen to some of the words.
You walk around.
And you don't have to agree. You don't have to agree. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, all we want is our people to be able to think. That's it. That's why we do what we do. Think. All right. And you got any final words there? Well, actually, you said the final words, so I'm gonna go and cut it off.
Okay, bro.
Peace.
Thank you, Elder Darryl, and thank you, Elder Kwame, and thank you, Elder Hot Tim. I called your elders on purpose.
Thank you, Elder Tony.
There you go, starting trouble. He's starting that goddamn trouble. That's what he's starting trouble.